Welcome to the Data Masterclass Podcast, where data leaders share their unique stories. In this episode today, we talked with Olga Ivina, who is a partner, global data science engineering leader at Microsoft. We deep dive on how to put AI into production at scale. Let's welcome your host, Aleksejs Plotnikovs.
Good morning, good afternoon, our dear data friends. You probably haven't heard of our podcast for quite a bit. So today we have an amazing guest with us, and I'm really looking forward, for many reasons, but I'm really looking forward to hear more. We have Olga, head of data science from Microsoft, and it's for me, of course, a very special feeling to be a second Microsoft person today on this call. And I've been the first one interviewed, I think a year ago by Dr. Alexander Borek, and now I was an ex-Microsoft person. I'm interviewing another Microsoft person. So let's get this started. Olga, please tell us about yourself.
Hello, Aleksejs. Before I tell you about myself, I wanted to ask a question. Were you an active Microsoft person when you were interviewed?
I was.
All right. Well, I intend to remain an active Microsoft person, so I hope it's not a tradition. Hello, I'm Olga. I am running data science for the consulting arm of Microsoft. It's called Microsoft Industry Solutions. I overlook the data science capability of the industry solution organization. I run a team which is way more talented than I am. We work globally across all of our largest industry, enterprise, and public sector customers, helping our customers make their digital transformation real, and in particular with focus on AI use cases. I myself, by background, as a statistician, my first job as a data scientist was in 2006, and all of my background was in applied statistics. I went all the way. I have a doctorate degree in that field, and also have done a postdoc, quite classical, I think, for many people who do data science. I have not done anything else in my life. I cannot even cook. There are trade-offs. I am not necessarily very regretful about it because I'm married to a person who's a wonderful cook. So yeah, that's about
That's
me.
the fix.
Yeah.
All right, so let me start with some provocation. Data science has been here for a while. I remember at least, 3-5 years ago, it was probably considered as one of the sexiest jobs of the future. So today, is data science still relevant?
Oh, yeah, sure. Absolutely. And it will remain relevant years from now as well. It might change the name, although I don't think. I think that the term is going for long and here to stay. But definitely, I think it will be relevant. You see, the thing that, for instance, and I see this within Microsoft, that we are working towards making ourselves obsolete all the time. We do custom once, twice, thrice, and then essentially we want that it becomes part of a platform, and then it becomes available on a click of a button. And we know that asymptotically we will never reach the goal of making ourselves obsolete, for the reason that, the job just becomes more complex, more interesting. We can tackle more, we can do more, and that's pretty awesome. And it's my ambition to be able to do more as a data scientist and as a technological professional.
And so it feels to me much of this more goes these days into the AI.
Yeah.
So AI has been here for a few years already. We see that people, majority get used to this, some using more, some using less. It's not anymore just technology. I think it's applied in many places. We as a users also successfully kind of getting hold of this where possible.
Mm-hmm.
However, when I look from the Data Masterclass perspective as overseeing a number of large customers across Europe, I would say it's not like struggling really with implementations, but we still don't see maybe as much as we would wish to see from the implementation perspective. So something, what worked well for people individually, not working so well for organization. And I think, in your role, you probably have the best statistics and the best overview of this. So what's going on?
Well, I think, recently just attended a conference in Munich, which is called Bits and Pretzels. And there was part of it was a CIO summit. And one of the things which was highly discussed that 95% of AI initiatives across organizations do not scale, and what to do so that they scale. And I think that there are very many different recipes, and in every situation, I think the approach is very individual. However, I have seen a couple of things that tend to work and that distinguish them from the thing that do not work. Definitely. So as a statistician, I'm normally very wary of kind of giving an advice that one fits all. I do not really believe in one fits all. And I also do not really believe in a segment of one. I believe on polarities. I believe in the individual approach. I believe in specialization, but also in some general norms. But, so definitely, data quality and availability remains a big problem for organization, definitely. And I think as of now, it's very well known, and we have been putting as a community of practitioners, not any specific company, but as a community of global practitioners, we have been putting AI into production for about 10 years, a little bit more, maybe a little bit less. It really depends on individual journeys, but I would say on the average, it's 10 years. So in 10 years, we all have well learned that data is a food of artificial intelligence systems. So you have to have it in good quality, and you have to have it in abundance. So it's the number one reason why, I guess, many things do not work as we would like them to work for an organization.
Okay, so speaking of data as a food, I'm starting to collection always data as a water, data as a new oil, data as a fire was another thing which I heard. So now I have a new one, data as a food. So what can we do to get that food supply better, or the food itself better? It's is this solvable? Is this bit of data, or that problem of data availability and, with long years hunger of data, is it solvable for companies to proceed with AI?
It is 100% solvable. The thing that it might take you more time than you would expect it to, because essentially for a specific application, we can use the word use case. It's actually two words, but whatever. So you would want to do something with your data. Or you would want to, you would want to do something. You would want to apply AI or analytics to do that, and you need data for it. So essentially you could have two types of problems. You either would have no data, or you would have data in bad quality. So if you have data in bad quality, you can fix the quality. If you buy data from somebody, you can essentially check the quality. And I know it sounds very, very naive, but for instance, 10 years ago, when we used to work on small samples of 1,000 observations, which we'll just take randomly from the data set, and we would pray that, the data is good, we didn't really have an observability of all of the array of data. We would just kind of assume that it's good quality. Now with cloud technologies, we can just check it at all times. And, kind of the data quality has increased massively. And also the approaches to data governance. There are more formalized approach to data governance. A chief data officer is a job in many organizations. They are overlooking people and organizations who are responsible for the quality of data. At least, the awareness. When you have an awareness that your data estate is not in the state that you would want to have it, it's already a big step, because you know what to do to bridge the gap. So one thing to do is definitely data quality. Another thing is data availability, because sometimes you just don't have the data. One of the you can either buy it or you can simulate it. And then when you would want to simulate it, or you would want to, impute, which would be the professional term for that. And there are different ways how it could be missing. Could be missing at random, at various degrees. Essentially, it also has another requirement, which I think doesn't only apply to the data problem itself, but generally to scaling of AI and putting it to work. So it's definitely the lack or not enough availability of technical talent. Because if you would want to simulate your data, you would potentially buy it from somebody, and then you have to trust that it is essentially in the quality that you need it, that it's representative of what you're trying to do of your data, and that essentially generally fits. To be able to know that for sure, you need to be sure that the talent who is governing this is in place, either in your organization or in your partner organization. And talent, technical talent, deep technical skills is something that has been relevant then, 10 years ago, and it's super relevant now. It's another, I think it's the second pillar of necessities to make sure that your AI essentially is being put to work and is able to scale.
So that's interesting term. Okay, so with data, it's kind of clear, I think, for many. Organizations are still chasing this need for data quality and maybe, chasing the need for how much investments they actually need to do. But speaking of talent, so that's really hot topic, I think, for many. And it's hot from both perspectives, because what I see, it's a duality of this talent subject as itself on the market. From one side, we hear that organizations are struggling to hire the talent. Mm-hmm. We've been talking about this. We've been also thinking about this when we're preparing for this podcast. And I was just recently, literally last Friday, with one of our members, a very solid company in Germany, which invests today a lot into their scalable growth with data and AI. And, the number one thing they said, we cannot get talent, right? So it's really challenging. On the other hand, I was recently in conversation with another our member, where the person with high seniority, with excellent track of record, was moving from Berlin to Munich. And he was honestly telling to me that finding the job was an incredible challenge.
Yeah.
So before we deep into why this talent is so critical for AI initiatives, do you have a sense, what's going on in this talent market right now? What is that situation where a company says we don't have ability to hire a talent? And I have so many people who says, I cannot get any job in this.
You're just speaking to my soul right now, because I think also a lot of recruiting people are going to be all ears listening to this conversation because, it's a good business. So, definitely. And I think I have been on both sides, not only as an applicant or a hiring manager myself, but also I have friends because, when you spend 20 years actively working in that, and also it takes about 10 years to curate a data scientist. So I have been studying for a while. I know a lot of people, really good technical people, who also report the same thing, that it's not very easy to land a job. And I also know a lot of organizations where they say, it's impossible to find talent. So I absolutely agree with you. This duality exists. I think that the reason, because, the match is not so straightforward all the time. And also you need to understand what kind of talent you need and what exactly you want this person to do. So it has to work. It doesn't mean that you have to put a technical talent into a box. This is literally the worst thing you can do to a technical and creative person, because technical people are creative. They are creative. And I would like to repeat this as many times as necessary so that it lands. So literally, it is the worst thing that you would want to do to a creative person, put them into a box. The best thing is that you can enable them and leave them alone so that they can do what they need to do. But it's difficult many times because it's very difficult sometimes to put into words of what exactly you need. Because there are also massive differences between, let's say, technical skills and technical leadership. Shall I elaborate on that?
Yeah. So I presume that for our scalability of AI efforts, what we touched in the beginning, we probably need both, right? And it feels to me with the passion which you're talking about, the need of the technical leadership and technical talent as such, it feels like AI is also not solving that problem, which many believes it will solve the problem, right? Why do I need an engineer? So I could do the vibe coding, right? So how does it fit into what you see from your perspective?
In 2016, I wish I lived in 2016. It would have been fun probably, although a little bit cold, I guess. But anyway, what I was going to say, in 2016, I attended a conference in London. It was the Strata plus Hadoop world conferences. And Stuart Russell was speaking there, and he was talking about the values of artificial intelligence. He said AI really does not have values. It does not care if it lives or dies. I think it just basically stuck with me forever. So yes, AI is a very, very sophisticated, but it's a technology. So I would not really expect a technology to solve all of my problems, especially those which are kind of interhuman problems. It's a great aid and enabler, but I think the responsibility and the accountability is with a human. Yeah.
Which leads us, I think, nicely to this technical leadership, right? So skills, okay, we got maybe some help from AI capabilities with certain skills, but we still, as a human, we are responsible, we are accountable. Mm-hmm. We know the purpose, like why we're doing this. Mm-hmm. And so this leadership aspect, so it feels it's one of the blockers maybe for that scalability. So what's going on in the technical leaderships? Why don't we have so many great technical leaders?
Well, because of there are not many of them.
Why?
I don't know. Because there are not many of them. I think, it's very difficult. It's a very rare blend. So you do have to have the technical jobs. And it does not matter what kind of technology you practice. If you're an architect, if you're a software engineer, if you're a data engineer, if you're a data scientist, if you are, if you're doing cybersecurity specialist, it really takes a very, very long time to become proficient. It's what Malcolm Gladwell is talking about, the 10,000 hours of practice. You do still have to apply them. I believe that. I mean, for some people it's more, for some people it's less. But, the thing is that if you love something, you just continue doing that. So I'm quite crazy about statistics, algorithms, artificial intelligence. I keep reading about it every day because I cannot help myself. But when it comes to leadership, technical leaders, they are all technical by default. They all have technical jobs. But not every technical person is supposed to be a technical leader. And being technical does not necessarily make you a leader. Not everybody has to be a leader. A leader is somebody who takes the responsibility end to end, not because they have to, but because somebody has to. It does not mean that they rule and reign. They just do everything that they do within their domain, staying within their swim lane, but then also enabling other people such that they can do more. A leader is a human, but they also, which means that they're prone to flaws, but they would essentially most of the time suspend their self-interest to be able to just see the thing that is being done by a collective through the completion. And it's quite important to them. A leader is somebody who is guiding and helping others. And it's not somebody who is basically given orders and stepping on other people's toes. So it's a very curious person. It's a person who knows how to listen. It's a person who knows, or at least tries to understand other people, and it has a huge respect for other people and for their skills.
So I agree with you. I mean, I absolutely kind of a +1 on what you said. What's interesting then for me to think and consider is that, okay, we are trying to grow and scale in AI. Mm-hmm. We believe that this will help, many organizations, many businesses. It will really do a lot of great stuff.
Yeah.
And now we said data, we have a problem with data, but we probably have a ways to fix the data, buy the data, synthesize the data.
Yeah.
Make a workaround.
Yeah.
Now, the second thing which we're coming through is this shortage of the technical leadership, which is kind of, I wouldn't say it's funny, but it's really interesting to see that we are trying to scale the technical capabilities for a better grade, and then we kind of run out of people who are able to do it, right? And so the largest technological advancement in a century is in danger because we don't have enough people.
Yeah.
So how does that work? I mean, knowing Microsoft, the company will always pull a lot of efforts to solve this type of, let's call it bottlenecks, right? So you are also acting today as a technical leader. You have a team who are growing leaders.
Yeah.
So what do you do with this to global leadership? What do you see the companies like Microsoft or even the customers of Microsoft, what they are doing to go with technical leadership? I mean, we cannot just sit and survive with this. I think you agree. We need to do something with this to create more space and more opportunity for technical leaders to grow.
Aleksejs, first, I would like to make a very small correction. So I'm not trying, or me or anybody who I know who is a technical leader normally don't act as a technical leader. They are. Because you are, when you don't have like an off button. You're always on. That's the thing. So I think that's quite important. And in terms of growing more leaders, I don't think it's a technology problem. I think this problem is way older than you and I, our age, put together. I don't know a remedy to this, but I know a couple of things that work. And they're definitely nurturing new talent, providing platform, and also giving people wings. I think this is super important because of established leaders, people who have achieved something in their life. They do not really understand how much of a power, how much of a leverage they have and how much they can enable others. Because for them, what is, kind of God-given, it's something that could make a difference to a career of another person. It is, for instance, I have been thinking about this because I had a conversation about coaching with somebody last week. And it was an important conversation for me because I would, as somebody who has done a bit in AI, I was thinking also about coaching. But sometimes, I would be very blunt. Just people come to you with some kind of vanilla questions. You're like, do your homework. And I think that as a technical leader, normally you have quite a bit to do. And you would want to enable people and you would want to scale your impact as well. But also you're very much interested to find people who are willing to make a step, who are willing to make a sacrifice, who are willing to grow. And it's not always easy. So you would definitely want to enable the people, but you cannot really enable people who are lazy. It's a waste of your time. It's a waste of their time, And I think it's also kind of matching. It's kind of, a source of, I guess, anything, sharing knowledge, wisdom, opportunity, matching the opportunity with people who would benefit from this opportunity. It's a huge problem. It basically brings us back to the beginning, I guess, of the conversation where we talked about why there are so many great technical people who struggle to find a job in which they would thrive versus so many organizations which are saying, hey, we have the resources, but we struggle to find the people. I think it's a system problem, really.
And it feels to me also that organizations kind of struggle maybe to really nurture and preserve the technical leadership and technical talent.
Yeah.
It feels sometimes that, this word technical, it has, well, I wouldn't say a negative meaning, but it has some kind of limitation, in it. So we label people like, hey, you are technical, so you've done.
Yeah.
Now you're for me that black box somewhere, which I need to open and then take when I need it, but otherwise you are just technical. You have this type of a capability which is on demand when it's needed, but otherwise, you are not needed because you are not a leader first. You are kind of technical first and leader then.
Yeah.
And so, is this what you see as well, that we are not appreciating maybe enough of that technical leadership and this unique blend of, people who've been learning for years. They've been really paving this path to excellence and absolutely loving their professions, nurturing their creativity, growing up and so on. And then they say like, wow, you are just technical, right? No, I mean.
You're again speaking to something which is very, very close to me because about 10 years ago, I decided to become a manager. And the reason for that was because of, I have seen technical people being put into the box. Essentially saying, all right, so you're an extension. Well, it was, I'm kind of paraphrasing, but how it felt to me 10 years ago. It was like, okay, so you're just an extension to a computer. Not necessarily, but I mean, you don't understand business. You don't have the knowledge of understanding the business. So you can definitely do your analysis, build your models, and let other people talk who really take the responsibility about the outcome. You see? And that was the thing. And it basically made my blood boil because I have seen so many people who are really, really capable of essentially taking an end-to-end responsibility over a solution and go above and beyond and take the next step and enable others. And they had something to say. Yes, technical people normally struggle to speak in words which would be understandable by, general population of non-technical people. But I think, aren't we all? I think that the communication, the vitamin C problem, it's something that is inherently human. So one type of people do not really understand other type of people. And that's essentially where all of the conflicts stem from. I think that the technical people normally, because they learn technology, it tends to be very precise. It tends to be very direct. There are kind of not too many kind of gray areas in there normally. And this is why they would try to distill the problem to a state of absolute or the most possible transparency, which sometimes is off-putting because in certain situations, there is a room for uncertainty. And I think technology is kind of trying to help you navigate uncertainty and tries to basically make uncertain things as certain as possible. For instance, my own core discipline, statistics. Statisticians, data scientists, what we do essentially, we manage risk. The risk comes from the probabilistic nature of what we do. So essentially stuff might happen, it might not happen with a certain probability. You basically look at a sample which has a certain distribution. You would hope that your sample is representative of all of the things that you're looking at out there in the world that you're not observing. So there is always a risk that things are just going to go in a different way other than your data suggests. And what you do, you're basically trying to predict by how much it would variate from what you observe, from what you predict. So you manage risk. And this is something that you do as a data scientist. It's basically your core job. You manage risk. And the thing is that sometimes it's very difficult to put this into non-technical words because you have been trained for years and years and years and years to be super specific. Especially in science, there is no room for ambiguity. You cannot really kind of say A causes B. You would say, we have looked at a sample in which we have observed the prevalence of something, subject to the confounding factors A, B, C, D, E, and with a kind of a probability, like a p-value of something. You would never be able to say A causes B. And sometimes when you speak with business people who have to take 75 decisions every day, and also they also manage risk and deal with a lot of uncertainty, they're very, very comfortable, or at least, they get comfortable with making a decision based on incomplete data. And they're like, okay, what's that? Is it A or is it B? Give it to me, And it's sometimes very, very difficult for a technical person because they're just not used to that rhythm. They're not used to this communication. So, one side sees the things on the other side as half-baked. The other side thinks like the first side is, kind of wobbly, unprecise, and not really actionable. So I don't know. It's different cultures.
It's interesting you mentioning this from many perspectives. It's something which I found personally myself years back. Mm-hmm. As a technical person in Microsoft, driving data management, data quality, even when we had some wins with data in the businesses, we will tend to talk with from a data perspective, right? Mm-hmm. We would say that, hey, we cleaned that thing, or we made some significant improvements in data, we manage, it's better. We would say something very, technically to persuade like how professional we are, or like how great stuff we're doing, which helps to the business, right? Mm-hmm. And then it worked somewhat until you're in these very few kind of connections, right? Yeah. And then I realized that as I expose more of that data capabilities in the company, and as I had to go and meet, new people in Microsoft, new business units who are interested, like how can we help them to leverage data? Mm-hmm. I realized that whole my vocabulary of, data management jargon just doesn't resonate at all. Mm-hmm. And so in a way, I found myself like a year later being internal seller job type of, Yeah, so you would go to Redmond, you would meet with the business units, and they would say, okay, how can you help me? And you're starting to talk like a seller. You say like, oh, for every your problem, we have a solution. Just trust us, and we have these great capabilities which you can sell us on. And it was surprisingly easy to get traction with the people. They were really seeing that as I, technical person, in their eyes, understand them and talk with them back in their language, like what matters for their business. This was this immediate trust. Yeah? If like this creepy data guy understands what we can do with data and it kind of resonates with me, I'm done. I'm sold.
Yeah.
Just go and solve my problem.
Yeah.
So now going back to our, AI scalability and like enabling these AI solutions, which really are business transformative. So we're coming to a point where we somehow need to really bridge these universes of people understanding their domains, people understanding what their business is about.
Mm-hmm.
Now they want to understand how AI can help with this. And we have these great technical leaders, presuming we have them, presuming we're growing them, as we just say. And we're pushing these technical leaders to the edge, which is not very comfortable, for them, which needs to be in this communication space. Like, how do we help them to be successful, in this communicational aspect of navigating the business challenge?
Well, I think it's definitely suspending self-interest and also teaching people to first try to understand and rather than seek to be understood. Because of, if you look at the use case, right? Whatever you do. And by the way, if you would want to scale AI, also you need to focus on solving problems that really exist.
Of course.
Yeah, because often not just innovating for the sake of innovation. But what I was trying to say that, for instance, you look at your problem that really exists and you're trying to solve it. You have a bunch of people, your classical Scrum or Scrum-like team, because all of the AI deployments normally tend to be agile due to the complexities of environment and the fact that there are very many unknown unknowns. You would have your subject matter expert. Like if it's a healthcare case, you would have somebody who knows about healthcare and the applications. Mm-hmm. You would have a data scientist. You would have a data engineer. You would have a software engineer. You would have a architect, right? You would have a product owner, a project manager, some different roles of people who will be looking and solving this problem together. And then everybody will look at this from their own lens. So definitely, a health researcher in this case, they will be focused on the applicability, the inference of what is going to be done with all of that stuff. For instance, a data scientist, if it's a different person in this case, for instance, it's very difficult to overcome your own vanity and not want to go for kind of the most sophisticated algorithms and say, okay, I have been the first person to do this on this kind of data. You really would want to have, this kind of experience to use the coolest models or, fine-tuning the coolest model or being able to do things that are difficult and that you could be recognized as a professional for. Whereas sometimes you just need to do the simpler thing and just focus on getting job done. As an architect, you would say the most important thing, is essentially the architectural diagram and the solution flow. As a data engineer, you would look at this and say that this is not going to work without robust data and that the data pipelines have to be in good shape and quality. And that's the most important thing. And the rest of this is superfluous. And then the project manager or whoever overlooks all of that, the owner is going to say, why is it all so expensive? And everybody... Yeah, and everybody is going to be in their own right. And then they first are going to look at this from their own lens. And it's just a team of, 7 people who are overlooking one thing. And then they work with other teams of people who are working on other things, and all of the things come together. So all of this is tremendously important. Having communication, the vitamin C flowing on the micro state and on the macro state is tremendously important. And I think on on the state of one individual, you can do 2 things about it. Really suspend your self-interest, which is super difficult to do. And then also focus on trying to understand another person before being understood.
I hear you. I think I firmly believe this understanding and this being very humble in your opinion, and really opening up and actively listening to the actual concerns of the business or the customers or those opportunities. It's very important. What do you see companies are actually doing with this? Because it feels like when we focus on deployment opportunities for, let's say Microsoft customers, there is a lot of that technical skill set which is appreciated. Yeah, you have a top world experts with you in your team. You have this industry and domain knowledge. You have previously resolved deployments and cases. So we value technical skills, we value experience, and so on. And here we're talking about these communications, which, always been this kind of soft skills and so on. And I wonder, how you see this being now shaped as important, as a truly important skill. I will give you a simple comparison. If we look back 5 years or something, the communication skill would be one of the most taught in consultancy. Yeah? Mm-hmm. You as a consultant, you need to really have your clean language, ability to understand customer quickly, connect the dots, all this type of things. So that would be a must for consultancy.
Yeah,
but it wasn't so much emphasized for these Scrum roles you just mentioned. So what do we do to help people grow, so-called soft skills, which eventually seems to be so critically important for success?
I think that it comes basically from the person. They need to be willing to grow.
Again, it's not lazy, yeah? So more willing.
It's very, very difficult to push people who are unwilling to do something. But you can definitely spend your time and try to understand why they are unwilling to do something. But it can be within the scope of your job or not. But then also, if you do have people who really wants to learn, all of the best that you can do is lead by example. So as a leader, if you lead an organization and you want to attract great talent, you need to not only create the environment in which people can thrive, but also you have to show by your quiet example what you do. You need to learn yourself all the time. You need to actualize your knowledge. Also to stay relevant. It's very important for business leaders to improve their knowledge constantly, to stay relevant, because nowadays, information flows so quickly. A day of today is a year 10 years ago of what's happening in a day. And we are more aware of it. And it's just everything is so fast paced. And so, yes, you have to lead by example. And then definitely you have to be able to not only mandate that we must innovate, that we must learn, that we must grow technical leaders. It doesn't have to be only the push, but also the pull. You need to understand why people are not learning and remove the obstacles, like a scrum master, a servant leader type of profile. You have to remove the obstacles from the ways of people. Why are they not learning? Either they don't have the training, either they are overloaded, either then they don't have the time, either the priorities are not clear, why they are doing all of that. Other things. So it's definitely very important. And this is definitely improving right now, but I think that, providing access to learning, providing access also to role models, I think is tremendously important. And it's something that needs to be done.
I like your role model example and the fact that you are so much mentioning this. Yeah? As I've seen many learning initiatives which appears very quickly and, leaders emphasizing goals, but then, they're kind of dying. Because we see leaders demonstrating that themselves, or even I would say that first layer after the leadership, which would really be showing up as let's stay to our agreements. Let's really use this learning space. Let's kind of, truly treat this as important, right? Because if we're talking this is important and then nobody doing this, and then, 2 months later, all these learning initiatives and learning hours and, how many I've seen this dedicated time within a week for learnings and, these different courses and communication examples and so on. If it's not being really embraced in reality, this is never going to work. So we'll just skip it. There are no easy answers, right? So it's kind of a pity, right? We are in such a technology amazing moment. as you say, one day counts for 2 years before, and we're still talking about, same people kind of skills. Are they lazy? Are they interested? Are they showing themselves as the leaders?
Yeah.
All the time.
I think I love your inference because it kind of answers the questions whether the data scientists are going to be relevant 5 years from now. Yeah, precisely. Because we as humans, we don't really evolve just as fast as the technology does. And we do need a lot of support and hand holding. And it's beautiful because we have evolved historically as a communal being.
Mm.
And it's, I don't think that in our age, it's going to, change.
Yeah, I think we will go through very interesting times, kind of adapting to that technology pace, keeping strong with the humans, what really matters for the humans. And it's a really interesting times, not just from, as I say, from like where the technology goes. I kind of see a lot of evolution will happen, but it's really how we as humans will co-work with this technology.
Mm-hmm.
And so it helps us to get better. So it really reduces at the end this cognitive load, for people versus creates over time some new one.
Mm-hmm.
What would be your kind of top of mind right now in terms of looking forward to, the projects, the path of a company? What really keeps you awake at night?
I think I really love projects which are frontier in the sense that doing something that has not been done before. As a technical leader, I do still have this ambition that I used to have as a practicing hands-on data scientist times before. So I always was interested in doing things that had not been done before in terms of implementing and developing algorithms. Now I have less so passion about implementing and developing algorithms. I have more passion about implementation and adoption and the value that it drives for people. And I have come to this realization, Aleksejs, as I have been working with people. Because if I look back into my professional career, I understand that I do not necessarily always remember the exact thing that I have done, but I more remember the experience of doing it with other people and who I did it with. And I just realized that it does not change. So, for instance, I have been reflecting quite a bit about my mission, about what I want to attain and what I want to do next. And the interest is essentially with what I know and what I have acquired so far to enable what I have, if you want, to be able to enable as many people as possible.
Mm.
So I think that in terms of ambition, I'm definitely interested in doing things that have not been done before. And my ambition to do this is not to put my name to this. I really don't care about this. It's more about enabling others to do that. So I really, really do love this kind of strive to become obsolete, as in you do custom once. You have fun when you do that twice, thrice, and then it just becomes available to everybody. This aspect of democratization. For instance, there is statistics which say that the citizen data scientists are on the rise. And that also the AI technologies is also what mostly applied in data science work. And I could not be more happy about it, really.
Mm.
I really like, for instance, data prep. It's deadly when none of us likes to do that, really. You can dig in data and find great insight. This is very true. But bumping into, data quality issues times and again and fixing them manually, it's no fun. If you can have AI help you with that, that's awesome. And I'm all for that. For instance, being able to co-develop your models or your algorithms, your solutions with GitHub Copilot, having an assistant to help you code. Because normally, for instance, data scientists, they are by design not professional software developers. It's kind of translated into plain English as research lousy code. And some people say many data scientists love using R, and R is being referred to as a sophisticated statistical calculator. Which is also a way of calling that. I love R, by the way. It's also something, if you're enabled by technology to do your job better, that's amazing. And I think that for me right now, I'm very interested in doing things which have not been done before in terms of enabling the breakthrough so that more people can do it with me, after me, better than I have done. And obviously when I say it's not so much myself, it's essentially the team. Yeah.
You're touching something which is very close to my heart.
Mm-hmm.
A sense of really really seeing that technology helps people to achieve more.
Yeah.
Right? We've been talking for this for a while, since the beginning of the computer era. And then as, some applications came through, and we've seen certain, of course, certain growth, in terms of overall help with technology for people. Yet, I want to really share it and see your perspective on this. When I looked on what's going on right now with AI and all these opportunities where we do, learn faster, or we can co-create, or we maybe never had the skills, of coding, but we can use the same, vibe coding or the Copilot assisted coding and so on. What I see first and foremost is a fundamental opportunity to close the gap in people's education.
Yeah.
Even look at Germany. So we are in a great country, which created fantastic engineering talent over years.
Yeah.
We also see that many people in Germany did not had a chance to make the universities, and they working as a frontline sellers or workers, or on the fabrics and so on. And it felt like almost by design of the previous years, they've been isolated from the ability to cope with tech or to use more technology to thrive, to get better jobs, to merge, what they learned on the front line, communicating with people, with what the technical info worker was doing on the back office.
Yeah.
And so I see this unbelievable opportunity, what we finally will bring that highly technical skills, which were considered before, to the people who could easily use them when it's needed, on the front line, without those university degrees, right? So is this something which you also see as the really profound opportunity here?
Interesting that you mentioned that. I read the book Radical Candor by Kim Scott. And there she mentions, I think, the policy about, it's a long time, and definitely Google has learned, a great company. They have learned a lot since then, but they say that Google used to have this policy that if you don't have a computer science degree, you could not be a software engineer. And then one of the people essentially quit for this reason. He was one, allegedly, I don't exactly remember, but I think that they were one of the founding members of Twitter. And the other person quit, and they become the founder of Pinterest. So I think that this enablement through technology of allowing people to do more, I think it's absolutely there. And it's not only for the people who did not have an opportunity to go to school. I think it's generally for all the people who have had an opportunity to go to school, but studied something different, which, for instance, that they feel in this day and age does not really allow them to go forward and to provide for their families. It also shatters barriers of gender, age. It just shatters the entry barriers. And I think it's pretty amazing. It is pretty amazing, Aleksejs. And the thing that Hans Rosling, he is unfortunately deceased. He wrote this book about great statistician. He wrote this book about the world and the data-driven approach, which is called factfulness. And in this book, he essentially states that throughout the years, the world does become better. So I do really have this optimism because we live longer, we have access to better healthcare. So I look at this enablement that technology brings, AI brings, an opportunity for other people to get access to insights at all times, best quality, verified. Sometimes LLMs, they provide, I do not really like when people say that LLMs hallucinate, because they essentially provide the most plausible answer based on the data that they have been trained on. But the thing that you have access to quality insights at all times, it essentially shatters entry barriers, and it's wonderful. So the world is becoming better with technology, and it's brilliant. I'm looking forward for what's to come.
Absolutely. And, I'm now on the closing thoughts from my side. Thank you for this conversation. It was amazing. And, the most amazing thing, which now I'm just, reflecting back and going where we started and how we went through. And it feels so powerful that we talked about people. We talked about this continuous need in people, continuous need for people to thrive and learn and be active and polish their communications and polish their leadership and really invest into themselves. And that's just what it is, right? So we're taking it from a really deep technology perspective, but we are coming to the point that still people matters.
Yeah, that's also one thing, if I could reduce the whole conversation to two statements, I would like people to retrieve from that two things, that essentially technologists are creative and that technologists are people. Yeah.
This is, I think, fantastic closure. So nothing to add anymore on this. You agree?
It is true. It is. I think it's true. The more technology, the most brilliant technologists I meet, they are very, very sensitive, and they are amazing people, really.
So, Olga, thank you very much for this. I think this podcast will be really a great news for many people in technology who are maybe doubting sometimes, like, what's the future for them, for their teams, for, whatever which happens now. And so I think our not only optimism, but informed optimism makes the right direction here.
Yeah, definitely. It's informed optimism. I love how you put that.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Olga.
Thank you.
Data Masterclass, where great data journeys begin.